Hi, I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema. If you aren't familiar with the program, Catching Up on Cinema is a film analysis podcast wherein we introduce each other to films, expand our cinematic horizons, and, in essence, catch up on our cinema. So, it is the month of August 2021, and is once again that time of the month wherein we do our very special Tales from the Shelf episode. And in joining me in this endeavor, I have my good buddy Brad from the Cinema Speak podcast. How's it going, Brad?
It's going great. I'm glad to be here. I gotta say, I always forget now that we're doing the video component. So, like, for the first 30 seconds while you're just doing the intro, I probably look like a zombie right there, just like staring off into space. Like I'm like, all right, I'm on camera, baby. I gotta be on here.
Yeah, the video component is definitely a new thing for me too. Like, the hardest thing for me is like learning to look at the webcam. Because that's not a thing I ever do. Like, even when I'm at work or something, it's like, fuck that. I don't want to look people in their digital eyes.
Yeah.
But I promise, Brad, like, if you're caught, like, picking your nose or something on the webcam, I'll cut away. I'll do you that service.
No, man, zoom in on it. I don't care.
Zoom in, jam it up there. Yeah, got it. So, as we tend to do things on Tales from the Shelf, we tend to categorize these monthly episodes into themes. So sticking with our alliterative titles from month to month, this month's episode is titled Rewatchable Relics. Essentially what this refers to is the movies in our respective physical media collections that we have watched the most, or we find ourselves coming back to most often. This of course, tends to be a situation where not all of these movies are going to be extraordinarily, like, outrageous or off the beaten path. But the hope here is that both Brad and I can, have some personal picks, some slightly off the beaten path picks. Like, the idea is we don't want to just, like, do all of Steven Spielberg's early filmography or, the first 3 Star Wars films or something along those lines. The hope is that both of us did our due diligence in picking movies that are especially personal to the two of us. So now that I'm done rambling, Brad, I'm going to throw you under the bus and ask you to kick things off because you're the guest and I'm that kind of host, that kind of shitty-ass host.
I'm fine with kicking it off. I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to get right into the big one. Should I just kick it off with my most rewatched movie? Because I don't think there's even a question for me that this is it.
I mean, Brad, you always come in here super fucking hyped, so you may as well just ride that wave, man.
All right, I'm hyped, baby. I'm hyped. All right. Well, I will say there's 2 movies that could maybe be my most rewatched. I'm pretty sure this is it, but the other one would be maybe Halloween. And the reason is because, every Halloween rolls around, you tend to watch Halloween. I did not pull that on my collection because I feel like I've showed that off way too many times in this series. But the other one, which is similar to Halloween in that it is based around a holiday, and it is one I watch every year, every Christmas Eve without fail, I rewatch Home Alone, which is definitely my favorite Christmas movie, I think. The reason I watch it every Christmas Eve is growing up, me and my sister, we would watch it every Christmas Eve. We'd watch the VHS. I still remember the Pepsi commercial that played in front of the VHS, iconic Pepsi commercial. And I think I probably still have that VHS tucked away somewhere. But, it just became a tradition. I don't know how it started, but it was every Christmas Eve we'd watch Home Alone. And I've continued that tradition even though she is no longer with us. I mean, she's with us, just, like, not on Christmas Eve. I usually...
Phrasing, Brad, it matters.
Literally, she's with us, but not literally with us. I don't see her until Christmas Day, and so I say I got to keep the Christmas Eve tradition going.
Gotcha.
She's alive. She's great. She's doing great. But yeah, usually and half the time I just put it on and I'm just like wrapping presents. That's a lot of times what it is. But I watch it every Christmas Eve, even if I don't want to. Like there's some years where I'm just like, fuck, I don't feel like watching Home Alone. I just watched it 365 days ago, but you got to do it. So yeah, it's one I watch every single year. If you go on my Letterboxd, like literally it's just boom, boom, every Christmas Eve since I got Letterboxd. I think there was even one year in college where me and some friends watched it earlier in December, so I had to rewatch it on Christmas Eve. That was tough. That was tough, but you got to do it. You got to do it. And I do love Home Alone. I mean, I honestly think for me, the first 20 to 30 minutes of this movie is amazing. Like, it might be my favorite opening, like, 20 minutes of a comedy, period. Like, I think there's so many great gags. I think the writing is great. Like, I think John Hughes' writing in this, and the opening is so good. And for me, honestly, it's kind of when it actually gets to, like, the big finale that it's like, okay, I've seen this a million times. But all the stuff with everybody in the house is so chaotic and so funny. And just, like, the more you watch it, you're kind of like, they really do a great job of each of these, like, individual brothers and sisters and cousins. Like, they all have their individual personalities that just continue to shine every time you rewatch it. So I love Home Alone, easily my most rewatched movie. I mean, the only other one would be Halloween, but I think Home Alone beats it. So yeah, it's a classic.
Oh, absolutely, it's a classic. I've seen you throw out like quite a few buzz memes from Home Alone over the past couple of years, so I can tell it's very near and dear to your heart. And you're absolutely right. Like that entire family, the entire McAllister clan, is really, really well put together. Like for as little screen time as each and every one of them may have across both of those first two movies, they're so well defined and they feel so true to life. Yeah. It's like my family doesn't personally resemble that at all, but I have encountered each and one of those people at other people's family gatherings at some point in my life. They're all so richly defined and just spot on. It's fantastic. But I'm curious, Brad, like what is your Letterboxd star rating for Home Alone?
I mean, I'll tell you, it's a 5. It's a 5-star film for me. I think it's, I mean, is it perfect? I don't think it's perfect, but...
No movie is.
Exactly. And I think it is... Maybe I'd say Christmas Vacation is funnier, but I do think this is probably, for me, the funniest Christmas movie. And I think the heart in it is great as well. Like, around that time of year, like, it hits it exactly. I mean, you know, it does get a little sappy, but not... It just enough, just what you want for Christmas time. It doesn't overdo it. Like, I think the stuff with the old shovel slayer or whatever, and him and his granddaughter, I think it's great. And I'm not ashamed to say, I still sometimes get emotional when Kevin looks out the window and sees him and his granddaughter reunited. Like, man, that's beautiful. That's cinema, baby.
No, it is a Christmas classic. It's a contemporary one. What's really interesting though is that I do quite like Home Alone, but for me, it's always been overshadowed by the second one.
Okay.
Largely because I watched the second one so many times. In fact, if I was doing this right, my selection process for my most rewatchable of relics, absolutely Home Alone 2 should be in my stack that's just off camera. Unfortunately, I don't own Home Alone or Home Alone 2 in any capacity outside of like a VHS that's probably in my parents' basement. But I rewatched Home Alone 2 just constantly. Like, for whatever reason, that was the one that I always came back to. But upon rewatching them later on into adulthood, the first one is probably the better film. It's just for whatever reason I picked the second one. And I don't think it's a grossly inferior sequel by any means, but for me personally, that's the one that I really latched onto. So like all the buzz memes I know come from like that one, and like all the quotables come from that one, especially, you know, Cheeks, Boney Bab, Cliff, like all that business. Like, that was some of my favorite shit. But the first one, one of the things that really always jumped out to me, actually in both films, was the score.
Yeah.
John Williams, no fucking joke, man. He showed the fuck up. Like that to me is kind of what elevates those movies in a lot of ways. Is that like we were bombarded, like utterly bombarded, like almost borderline assaulted with like imitators.
Yeah.
Over the next decade and a half in children's cinema. Like you could not find a live action children's film that didn't involve some sort of traps and or slapstick comedy at some point. Just mischievous little boys, like Bart Simpson types menacing adults in some fashion, like problem child type shit. It was all because Home Alone was massively successful. But when you factor in things like John Hughes' writing and John Williams' score, it just like elevates the material to such a higher plane that it feels like you're watching a cheap knockoff when you try to compare something similar to Home Alone. And what's more, like when you say Christmas classic, one of the most remarkable things to me is like I think John Williams effectively created a brand new Christmas Carol with the Home Alone score, that Christmas Star melody, and they even put lyrics to it. I can't remember if it's in the first one, but it's definitely in the second one. They have like a children's choir to go with it. That melody plays in shopping malls to this day as if it's like a Christmas Carol that's existed for hundreds of years. It's like, no, that shit came out in the fucking like late 80s, early 90s, man.
Yeah. And there's some like tracks in the score, like specifically where the family is like late and they're running through the house, which I guess I watched this movie so much growing up that it took me, I don't know what age I was, probably an embarrassing age, when I realized like I just always thought that was just like Christmas music. I was just like, oh, that was just sourced music. Like that's just a famous song. I never even considered him. Like I knew John Williams did the score, but I never like thought like, wow, he did that. Like that is iconic. And yeah, it's an awesome score.
Oh yeah, no, it's right up there with the Rambo theme and the Total Recall theme for themes that have like themes for iconic movies that have been recycled for trailers for lesser films. I even remember, like, I think it was Rambo 3. They used a theme from a totally different action film. It's like, why would you do that? Like, Rambo has one of the most iconic themes in action cinema. Why would you borrow someone else's shit? But yeah, that like, I don't know, hysterical, like, kind of bouncy fun music that plays whenever the family's in panic mode.
Yeah,
it has been used in countless children's movies trailers. It just has the precise, it captures that mood so perfectly that's like, why wouldn't you repurpose that? But yeah, if you're to put like the finales, like the trap sequences of Home Alone 1 and 2, if you were to pit those two against each other, which one do you think edges the other out?
You know, I don't even know if I can say, because I've definitely seen the second one a lot, but it has been a long time since I've watched the second one, and I more remember, like, the stuff with him in the hotel. I really don't remember much with the big finale, other than it taking place in, like, an abandoned apartment building or whatever.
Gotcha. How do you do? This is Peter McAllister, your father. Well, I'll tell you this much, Brad. You could cut out the entire finale of Home Alone 2, and if you just left the Rick scene in there, I would be, if it was just an hour of bricks and Daniel Stern eating said bricks in the face, I would be over the moon. Like that would be the best movie ever made.
That's right.
Because
I do remember the bricks. I do remember the bricks now.
The to me, that's just comedy gold. Watching Daniel Stern eat fucking bricks in the face. I kind of miss Daniel Stern. He was great.
Yeah. What is he up to anymore? Is he still with us?
I think he's still with us. Like I think he went the way of Matthew Lillard, where it's like he dipped out for a second, but he's probably quietly like still doing stuff. Like he's probably still putting in good work, because I think Matthew Lillard is like doing indie stuff. Like he's on the comeback. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Daniel Stern, I'm not positive, but he had a moment, and it was a long one and a good one. I sincerely do miss him, so I hope he's doing well. But Joe Pesci, not sure what he's been doing other than The Irishman. He basically went into hibernation, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was just cool to get him out of hibernation for The Irishman. I mean, that was kind of what I was most excited for when that movie was coming out. It's like, Joe Pesci's back, baby.
Yeah, no, I mean, that whole movie, just the cast, the way it was arranged, felt like just like a victory lap for all of those people, including the director, where it's just like Scorsese's just like getting the whole band together. It's like, hey, I'm not sure we're all going to have one of these moments again, so just go nuts. Do you have, like, go nuts? I'm going to give you all the screen time you could ever want. That much is true. But Macaulay Culkin has some sort of project. I think it's called, like, Rabbit Ears or Bunny Ears or something. Okay. It's a website. I think it's, like, a news site and just, like, a merch store or something. He started popping up. Like, he started doing collaborations with a lot of, like, internet personalities that I've been following for the past decade and a half or whatever, and it was a weird collision of worlds where it's just like, hang on, I didn't invite Macaulay Culkin. Like I liked him a long time ago. He kind of dipped out, but he's back and he's hanging out with like people that I wouldn't expect him to, and it's like kind of fun. Okay. Like he showed up at Red Letter Media, the guys from Wisconsin. He even showed up at the Angry Video Game Nerd show at one point. And he did good work with them. Well, probably just to promote his bunny ears thing or whatever, but he seems like, as far as Child Star goes, like Child Star's trajectories go, he's done just fine for himself.
Yeah. And he's actually going to be in the new season of American Horror Story. So apparently, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but the word on the street is him and Kathy Bates get together, if you know what I'm saying. So
well,
it's going to be great.
I wouldn't doubt it, actually, because I don't know what his acting chops are like these days. I mean, I've mostly just seen him doing, like, kind of hangout type material, not actual acting.
Yeah.
But Kathy Bates always shows up. Like, she elevates anything that she's attached to. So
yeah.
I would imagine if he does a shit job, she'll pull him aside and give him a talking to.
I think he'll fit right in.
It's like, listen to me, you little shit. I was naked and about Schmidt.
Yeah.
But that's a really strong opener, Brad. Like, way to be honest and actually like throw the one out there that you watch as an annual tradition.
Yeah, I didn't want to forget about it, so I said let's just lead off with it. Let's just go with it. So yeah. Boom, Home Alone.
Yeah, shit. Why not? I personally don't really have. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. I did have some holiday tradition films in the house. So for Christmas, growing up, we participated in the Christmas Story thing, the 24-hour Christmas Story. It's like on like TBS or TNT, one of those cable networks. It got out of hand in recent years. The merchandising train that backed up over A Christmas Story got out of control, and now I think it leaves a bad taste in my mouth just to think of that movie, even though I do really like it. It's just it got overexposed, it got overplayed. But we did used to watch that at Christmas. But at Thanksgiving, we did have a film series that I can't recall if it was. I think it was Thanksgiving Day or maybe the day preceding, but always around Thanksgiving time for a very long time. The cable networks were very kind to allow my family to indulge in Rocky.
Nice.
So this would have been in the days when we only had 5 Rocky movies as opposed to 6 plus 2 Creed films. So the Rocky franchise, and by the way, this is just a standard Blu-ray box set of all of the Rocky films. I own the 2 Creed films separately. Hopefully,
it's a nicer box set than I have. Mine looks like garbage compared to that.
I've seen that they've reissued these quite a few times.
Yeah.
And, I think this one was a gift probably from my brother. That sounds right. So I don't know like what distinguishes this one from any of the other versions, but yeah, I have seen some truly fucking hideous versions of this. I think the ugliest one I've seen is one where it's like Rocky 4 Rocky, and he's like kneeling in front of the he's on the cover and he's like kneeling and he has just like one glove on and he's like cupping his knuckles in his one hand.
Yeah.
It's like called some form of Rocky Ultimate Collection, but I like this one. It's classy.
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah, but the Rocky films are incredibly special to me and my family, me and my brother mostly, I guess, because my dad's from Philly. I've never been there personally. I was raised in Seattle in the Pacific Northwest, so I'm like the other side of the country, and just Philly is like almost like a person to me, and because literally everything. Philly is Skunky Beaumont from Nickelodeon's Doug, or Bob Sacamano from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
AKA Kramer's friend, who is never visually represented in the show. He is only referenced verbally. The city of Philly is that for me. It's like I've never set foot there. Everything I know about it has just been told to me by my dad and his family, and it's all bad. It's all fucking awful. But every single one of those stories ends with some backhanded compliment, like, "Oh yeah, but you should totally go there. There's a lot of history and stuff."
Yeah.
All you've told me is about shootings and stabbings. and about how you'd rather go fight in the Vietnam War than stay there.
Yeah, it sounds like it's no wonder you've never set foot there. But man, you got to go check out the Rocky Steps, man. That's got to be a life bucket list thing.
Well, yeah, and actually that's a huge part of why Rocky's really special to me, is because when I was very, very young, finding a way to bond with Dad was kind of a tricky thing to navigate. But then things would happen, like Rocky would be on television, and all of a sudden he'd get very talkative. Like he'd get really excited and he'd open up about things. And I'm just a little fucking kid. I don't know what's going on. I'm just waiting for the part where people start punching each other. But like meanwhile, Dad is interrupting. He's talking over the movie because he's really excited, because a large portion of the film was shot in his neighborhood. Like he can point to like street corners and be like, "Oh yeah, I used to hang out there. Oh yeah, I used to sled down those steps. Oh yeah, I know that guy. Oh, I tried to kill that guy. That guy tried to kill me. That guy hit on my sister." Stuff like, no, I'm serious. Like he would point at the end credits of the movie, and there's a guy in the end credits that's listed as Fire Barrel Singer, and be like, "Jimmy Zazzarino, I tried to kill that guy."
That's amazing.
And be like, "Hey, did you know that's Frank Stallone singing by the fire barrel?" It's like, "No, I was not aware of that, Father, but thank you." But like watching those movies, especially the first two, it was always just like an excuse to hang out with Dad and have him share stories about the neighborhood and stuff. And just the general vibe, like he was always very confident in saying, yes, in 1976, that was very much the town. That was the vibe. This is fairly accurate, minus the PG dialogue. It was, quite a bit more profanity would normally be present, but it was a different time in cinema history. But the entire Rocky franchise is very, very near and dear to my heart. I've seen all of them front to back so many times. I know them like the back of my hand. Any time these movies come up in conversation with my brother, it ends up just being a shit show. It's just like, oh, I guess we're talking about Rocky the rest of the night. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've brought him on Catching Up on Cinema to talk about things that are like tangentially related to the Rocky franchise, and it's like just devolves into that shit. But both Sylvester Stallone and the Rocky franchise are really, really special to me, and I don't watch them nearly as often as I used to, more than likely because I don't have cable anymore, and I don't have the convenience of having someone program my viewing schedule for me. Mm-hmm. But I'm actually like in the process of getting my girlfriend up to speed with all of these. She's seen just the first two for now, but like every so often she'll remind me and be like, "Hey, we left off at 2 and there's still like 4 more, plus those 2 Creed movies with that really fucking handsome guy Michael B. Jordan." It's like, yeah, I know. Well, we got quite a few movies between now and then.
She's excited for Creed, I can tell.
Oh, I mean, who wouldn't be? But
you guys should check out Space Jam. He's in that.
Yeah, I actually spoiler for Brad's show, the Cinema Speak podcast, I did listen to your most recent episode this morning, and that joke, like, without having experienced it firsthand, just having it relayed via you guys talking about that, I was like, are you fucking serious? Like, that qualifies as fucking humor? Like,
yeah.
No wonder people don't have hope for the next generation.
It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, that is pretty fucking bad, especially like when you think about what you're potentially teasing with that. Like, you're just doing this to your audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Come here. I got something to tell you. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. But how about you, Brad? You have any connection to the Rocky franchise?
I've seen every Rocky movie, but I don't have the connection that you do. Like, I didn't watch it growing up. I think, I don't know how old I was when I saw the first Rocky. I was young-ish, but I mean, maybe I was in high school even. But I only had watched the one Rocky, and then I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, I went and watched the rest of the franchise for the first time, and I like the franchise quite a bit. I mean, I definitely think the first one is probably the only one I would say that I love. Like, I know some people there's some people that love 4. Like, a lot of people have a lot of reverence for 4, and I do like the 2 Creed movies a lot too. But yeah, it's kind of the thing where I wish I had growing up with them, because it's like, man, I can definitely see myself relating to these movies, but I just don't have that thing where I've watched them a bunch and I didn't grow up with them. And I think, there's a little bit of that where if you grew up with them, it carries a lot of weight, I think.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. That's like, you and I have talked about this before in previous episodes. It's like there's certain products that if you're introduced to them at the right age, it makes them timeless. Where it's like, instead of approaching it with a critical mindset, it's like, you're a little fucking kid. Like, it's a movie. It's gonna occupy the next 2 hours, which in kid hours means like, oh my god, it's so long. like 2 hours is an eternity. Like, it's gonna be occupying my attention for the next 2 hours. So whatever it is, it's great. It's the best thing I've ever seen, because I've seen 5 movies in my existence up to now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I feel kind of privileged to have been introduced to these movies very early. In fact, like, while you were talking about like having seen the first one when you were in high school, like, I was like obsessed with these movies when I was in like middle school. Yeah, I kept talking about them, and I just remember being like baffled by the fact that like my peers, my contemporaries, were like in the dark about, like, they didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. I was like, how do you not know about Mr. T?
Yeah.
It's like, because Mr. T and Rocky squared off in 1982, 5 years before you were born, Trevor. It's like, yeah, but I saw the movie and I'm really up on it. So like, why can't the rest of you be as excited as me? It's like, well, because the rest of us don't have dads from Philly and don't care about boxing. Which actually, that's another thing that I owe to the Rocky franchise, is it got me interested in the sport of boxing, which to this day is probably the most important sport to me personally. Mm-hmm. Like all the various ball sports, I mean, I know what the fuck I'm looking at. I can follow a game of baseball, I can follow a game of football. I'm just not emotionally invested. Whereas boxing, I'm like actively following, like I'm actually invested in it. And it's kind of similar to my taste in movies, actually, where it's that sport that has existed for quite some time, a very long time, but like actually finding people to talk to about it is really hard. So it's like I have all this passion. It's stuffed down, and that's what leads to people making movie podcasts, is they have all these thoughts and nobody to share them with. So they need to recruit people from other parts of the country to service their brick wall that they can throw mouth noises at for 2 hours at a time.
And it's a slippery slope from there, man. It's a slippery slope from there.
Yeah, but good times had by all, hopefully.
Oh yeah, of course.
But yeah, Rocky, like I love all of them except 5 is the one that we all like to pretend didn't happen. It did happen. We all have to be okay with that. It is the least of the entire series. Each film, though, kind of similar to the Lethal Weapon franchise, I want to say, has its merits. Just the 5th one has the least of them.
Now I gotta ask, because you're the expert, you're the Rocky expert, you're the Rockter, you're Rockter MD. Is there any actual Thanksgiving in those movies? Because as soon as maybe it's just because I know you, but as soon as you were like, they're on during Thanksgiving, I'm like, it's gonna be Rocky, isn't it? And I don't remember ever watching them on Thanksgiving. In fact, if anything, I remember watching the Bond movies. That they would have Bond-a-thons on Thanksgiving. But as soon as you said Thanksgiving, I'm like, Rocky just feels like a Thanksgiving movie. Or franchise, even.
I'm glad you brought that up, because actually, James Bond, I have that box set over there that I didn't pull aside, because there were, I'll just go throw it out there right now, there were a few things that I just pushed aside right out the gate. One was Godzilla. If any of you people listening have listened to any of Catching Up on Cinema, you're well aware of the fact that I'm a Godzilla fanatic. I was raised on the Godzilla, but I figured y'all have heard enough about that. This entire thing, all of my most rewatchable relics could easily be Godzilla movies. And the same goes kind of for James Bond as well, where I watched many James Bond-a-thons, again, with my dad. And yeah, a lot of those did fall on Thanksgiving as well, now that you mention it. But Rocky and Thanksgiving, I don't know how it came about. I want to say it was, again, cable television. Somebody just decided Rocky and Thanksgiving go together like peanut butter and chocolate. Thanksgiving has been featured in the franchise. I believe in the first film, Paulie actually throws a fucking tantrum on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And kicks them out of the house. Either that or they were just having like a roast bird, like a very large roast bird or whatever. But I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be Thanksgiving. But major point that I want to close things out with here is the recut of Rocky IV is supposed to drop in November, probably around Thanksgiving.
That's right.
Yeah, so I'm guessing there's just some sort of like cultural osmosis effect where Rocky and Thanksgiving are just a thing in America, apparently.
Like even the Creed movies, I think, came out around that time of year, if I'm remembering right.
November, December, around there.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it came from, to be honest, but it works.
It fits.
I mean,
well, there's no Thanksgiving movies really, not many. There's a few, but there's not like the whole, there's not like just so many that you can't even break through. It's like Sylvester Stallone. He said he saw an opening, and he said, even though there's not a lot of Thanksgiving in these movies, he says, we're going in. We're gonna go in. We're gonna take over this holiday.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, the very best Thanksgiving movie is fictional, and that would, of course, be what Thanksgiving. Not Seth Rogen, not Seth Green, but not Seth MacFarlane. What's his fucking face? The Bear Jew.
Eli Roth?
Eli Roth, thank you.
Okay.
I don't know why I was thinking Seth, but his fake trailer for the slasher movie, Thanksgiving. Yeah. That's, of course, the best Thanksgiving movie that could have ever been conceived, unfortunately.
I was like, who the hell are you talking about? Seth? Who's this?
It's been a rough fucking week, man. Like, I don't know. I've been very forgetful this week. Like, I've been leaving shit all over the place. Like, I had my girlfriend's birthday the other day and was like, well, I forgot 3 things. Not a big deal.
I mean, you didn't forget the birthday, did you?
No, I remembered the birthday, but I was like, shit, I left my mask at your apartment. Shit, I left your flowers at my apartment. Shit, I almost left my keys in my car. So it's been kind of week. But thanks.
As long as you remembered the birthday, it could have been worse. It could have been worse.
It got taken care of, but thanks for bailing me out there. Yeah, Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. Yeah, that was a very, very good fake trailer. Some of his best work, if you asked me. But anyway, that's enough about Rocky. What you got next, Brad?
Okay, well, I don't even know. Where should we go with this? Let's just go with this one. Why not? This is a movie that watched all the time when I was younger. I'd say probably late elementary school, middle school, early high school. Like that's when this was on repeat all the time. And for a while, it did get a Blu-ray release, but it went out of print, and it was like super expensive if you were to buy it through Amazon secondhand or whatever. But they did finally, I think just last year or the year before, finally put it out again. They reprinted it, and now I own it. Glad to have it on Blu-ray. It is with my man James Carrey. It is The Cable Guy, which I could put Dumb and Dumber here. It could go either be Dumb and Dumber or The Cable Guy, but I'm gonna go with The Cable Guy because it's the movie where I watched it when I was younger and loved it, and I watched it over and over and over. And it wasn't until later in life that I found out that there are some I think it's kind of come around, but at least initially, this movie was not viewed as his finest hour. Like people were like, "Oh, I mean, Jim Carrey, he was great in the '90s, except for The Cable Guy." And I was just thinking, like, The Cable Guy's like his best movie in the night. Like, what are people talking about? Like, it kind of blew my mind. And I don't know. I think it's definitely aged better than a lot of his films. I like that it's darker. It's a little more up my alley. Like, I put on Dumb and Dumber, and I probably will laugh more at Dumb and Dumber than almost any film out there. But something with The Cable Guy, I just like the whole, kind of like the stalker angle and how it borderline gets into some horror elements, but still manages to be very funny. And, it's definitely I think it's kind of come around, but I'd still say underrated Jim Carrey movie. I like Matthew Broderick in it a lot. and just one of Jim Carrey's best comedic performances, if you ask me. He's great in this.
Wow, Brad, that is a fantastic pick for me anyway, because I wouldn't rank that movie among like my most watched films. I actually don't own that, although I should, because I adore The Cable Guy. I think it is a tremendous work of dark comedy. Kyle and I frequently quote that film. We can't say the name Steven without saying Steven. Steven. And same with password. The password is nipple. I absolutely
classic.
love The Cable Guy. And what's more, The Cable Guy kind of started the trend of me, like, it took a while for it to solidify, but around the time we got to like Tropic Thunder, I started to realize, holy shit, I think Ben Stiller is a really good director.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think he's generally pretty solid as a comedic actor, but beyond that, I think he really knows how to put together a movie, because the tonality of his films is so unique among most like larger budgeted comedy films, because he goes to that weird dark territory that not everybody's willing to go to. And I think that's part of why he gets such good performances out of people, is that he lets his actors play. Like Jim Carrey at that moment in time wasn't doing that. He could have very easily coasted on just doing endless Ace Ventura movies. But no, he decided to do that, and like what a few years down the line, like The Majestic and stuff, and not too long after that, he kind of pivoted entirely into more dramatic roles and stuff. But The Cable Guy at that moment in time was kind of a bold move for everyone involved. It's like, what? I don't even know what the fuck I'm watching. Or, actually, I feel kind of weird laughing at this. But when you think about it, it's like, don't over intellectualize it. Just fucking laugh at it, because it's hysterical, but it's pitch fucking black at the same time. My God, even as a little kid, even when I didn't really understand a lot of the humor, it still had something about it that made it very compelling and very, very comedic. Like just the karaoke scene.
Oh,
like,
that's iconic. I mean,
it's so
his
bizarre.
Friends, his clients that he invites.
I was about to say, the casting of all the extras in that scene, they knew what they were doing. They're just like, let's get the weirdest looking fucking people we can and stuff them in this tiny apartment.
Yeah, it almost feels like a precursor to like some Adult Swim kind of humor. Like that's very like Tim and Eric, like just like casting like very, very, very real people, like very, down to earth, kind of like weirdly, like there's always like, they look like real people, but there's something a little off with them. And I love that in that sequence. And it's just his clients, how they're such big fans of him and everything. And it's great. And I mean, of course, the medieval times segment is awesome as well. It's a great film. I have to say, I don't know if I've watched it since I've bought this Blu-ray. It's been a long time since I've watched it, so I definitely need to revisit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You should definitely get on that. The medieval time sequence is fantastic. I personally really got a lot of laughs out of the restaurant assault sequence.
Is it Owen Wilson that he
it
did?
is.
Yeah, okay.
It is Owen Wilson, probably pre-Anaconda.
Yeah.
But even his character, there's a lot of weird little like details in his dialogue where it's like he's supposed to be kind of a dick anyway, but it's so subtle that you all you're focused on is the fact that an innocent man is being assaulted in the restroom. But it's a magnificent sequence, and Jim Carrey is just fucking going crazy. Like, I don't even know what the hell his method was going into that scene, because he just crafted a character. He probably just did the thing where he looked at himself in the mirror and just said, I'm going to be that person. It's like, I'm going to put on you have a big tape. It's like, you have a hot tape. He just put on the sunglasses, put on the fake mustache, and just went nuts, and it worked out. But then there's like the running gag where they keep cutting back to the trial between the two brothers. One of the funniest fucking bits in that whole movie is the advertisement. It's a commercial for the TV movie version of the murder case. It's Eric Roberts as Ben Stiller's character. It's supposed to be twin brothers, one of whom murdered the other, but they get Eric Roberts to stand in for him. It's fantastic. But no, I love The Cable Guy. probably should own that movie. I'm kind of shocked that I don't, because I do talk about it a lot, and obviously it's like crystallized in my brain. But yeah, I'd like to see more from Ben Stiller as a director going forward, because he hasn't stepped up to the plate too often. I think he also did Reality Bites, which I've heard has not aged well at all. Like,
Okay.
I haven't watched it myself, but I guess it was a big deal at the time. But when you watch it now, it's like, ooh, this makes me throw up in my mouth.
Yeah, I definitely. The one thing that Ben Stiller directed, he did a miniseries, Escape at Dannemora, which I've heard is actually really good. That's one I've been meaning to see. I think it's got Paul Dano, Patricia Arquette, and is it? Yeah, Benicio del Toro, which I've heard good things about. I think it was nominated for like a bunch of Emmys or something, but. Because other than that, I think his last movie was Zoolander 2, which wasn't his finest hour.
Yeah, I know I saw that. Like, it took me a minute just to confirm that in my head, but I don't remember a damn thing, so it doesn't really speak well to how well it turned out. But it's funny, I mentioned this before talking to you, but I've always kind of linked Danny DeVito and Ben Stiller in my mind. I know they collaborated on Duplex. I think you confirmed that with me when we talked about it last time. But just their tone, it's really they seem to have like a simpatico going on there. So it made me happy to see them team up for something, even though I don't particularly think Duplex is an amazing movie by any means. It was just kind of neat seeing the two of those worlds collide. I want to say it's because Death to Smoochie has a very similar tone to Cable Guy. But more than that, my dad introduced me to Throw Mama from the Train when I was probably a little too young for it.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, that movie has always stuck with me. And it strikes a very particular tone. That it's very, very, very dark. You're not sure if you should be laughing at all the things that are happening. And yet, if you can make your peace with that, some of the funniest shit you'll ever see. Have you ever seen Throw Mama from the Train?
No, I haven't seen that or Death to Smoochie. I've got to check them. I got to check them both out. I need to beef up my Danny DeVito watches.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Ruthless People also, but Death to Smoochie is very similar to Cable Guy. Very divisive. Some people think it's complete crap and meandering garbage. Throw Mama from the Train, I think, has a better reputation. But if you're in the mood for something Cable Guy-esque, both of those get a thumbs up from me. I highly recommend Throw Mama from the Train in particular.
Yeah, I'll check them out.
I got a really useful phrase out of Throw Mama from the Train. It's I have an enormous headache in my eye. It's like
That's good.
It's very similar to like you ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight. Like the only response that can come from that is just what?
Yeah.
It's like, don't ask. It's just a very particular type of headache.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah, I definitely thinking about Duplex. It does kind of have the same vibe as the Cable Guy from what I remember of it. Been a long time since I've seen that, but I can see the similarities there.
Yeah, no, someday I should do like a deep dive on both of them, because there are definitely holes in both of their filmographies. Like Ben Stiller in particular, I'm sure he's directed other films I'm not aware of, but I've always had a lot of confidence in him just because of a handful of movies of his I've seen. But anyway, you gave me a comedy. You know, I don't have a whole lot of those. Oh, shit.
Weirdly, I have a lot of comedies here. I don't know what that says. Just when I was younger, comedies were what I would go back to and watch again and again, I guess.
Well, this is literally the only comedy I pulled off the shelf. And truthfully, I don't think this is probably the most rewatched film I have in my stack. This is maybe one of the least amongst all the other picks I made. But there was a very specific window of my childhood where this movie was on repeat quite a bit. So during that couple of years or whatever, this movie got a lot of play in the household. So I would count that among this. And there's a reason why this is in the stack. So only comedy I put aside. one of very few comedies I even have in my collection. This is, of course, Ernest Goes to Jail. Jim Varney stars Ernest Goes to Jail.
Interesting.
Yeah. What's really funny about our household is that mom's from Hawaii, dad's from Philly, I'm from the Pacific Northwest, and for whatever fucking reason, Ernest was really popular in our household. It's like
he hits all the demographics.
Yeah, Ernest. He transcends cultural boundaries. Ernest is universal. He's universally humorous. I really liked Ernest when I was a little kid. Ernest P. Worrell is a wonderful character. As far as I remember, he began life as just like a product pitch man. Mm-hmm. He'd do a lot of like direct-to-camera talk, and his catchphrase was like, "Hey, Vern," and he'd just like sell you milk and shit. Like that was his shtick. But the thing about Ernest was always Jim Varney. Like, as an actor, Jim Varney, much like a Jim Carrey, always had so much more to give than he was asked to, and yet, like, I don't feel that his contribution was lessened because of that. Like Jim Varney didn't do a whole lot beyond Ernest, but if you dig deep, like if you look up some of his real material, the man was an incredibly accomplished actor, and they always say that comedy is one of the very hardest things to do as an actor. And he just had that remarkable energy to him that even when it wasn't really that fucking funny, like just he'd find a way to put just that little bit of English on it that made it memorable and made it special. Kind of similar to like The Rock in his wrestling career, where it's like one of The Rock's biggest tricks as a wrestler was that he put his stamp on literally everything that could be done between the ropes and beyond. It's like, if he's gonna throw a punch, he's like, I'm gonna throw a rock punch. It's like, and if I'm gonna stomp a guy, I'm gonna stomp him like The Rock, and I'm not just gonna do an elbow drop. I'm gonna do the people's elbow drop. So he put his signature on everything, and Jim Varney very much did that with Ernest, where like all the random fucking characters he came up with for all those movies, like the old woman persona. And I think he did like a Roman centurion at some point. It's like, I don't even know what the fuck we're doing, but it doesn't matter because he does all of it so well.
Yeah.
But yeah, for whatever reason, Ernest Goes to Jail was like the one Ernest movie that we owned when I was a little kid. Most of the movies we had in the household were VHS rips. So somebody had 2 VCRs at some point and was renting shit, I'm guessing. Or I remember our Empire Strikes Back was definitely taken off of an HBO free weekend because the HBO logo would pop in and out in the bottom right corner. And Ernest Goes to Jail was always my favorite. I remember when Ernest Scared Stupid came out, and it legit kind of scared me a little bit.
I think I remember that. Yeah, I don't remember that movie very much, but I do remember there being some moments in there where it's like, oh, yeah, for kids, it's a little intense.
Yeah, no, it's the animatronic work for the troll or whatever was pretty gruesome, and then like he's fucking assaulting children throughout the whole movie. It's like, and of course the first kid that gets it in that movie is the kid with the glasses. So it's like, I'm projecting. He's coming after me, and I only have Ernest to save me. But yeah, Ernest Scared Stupid didn't get as much play in the house because, I mean, it's holiday themed, and it was legit kind of scary for me at one point. I think my brother always told me that Ernest Goes to Camp was pretty good. But for me, Ernest Goes to Jail is top tier Ernest.
Yeah. I definitely am not like super well versed in the Ernest verse. I'm just looking up the list of films right now, and I did, I think I logged it as a rewatch. I did watch Ernest Saves Christmas a couple of years ago for Christmas time, and, you know, the movie itself wasn't great, but I gotta say the first, 10 minutes of that movie, just being thrown back into the world of Ernest, I was losing it. I was cracking up at everything he did. But yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen Ernest Goes to Jail, to be totally honest. I might have only seen Christmas and Scared Stupid. Yeah, and I didn't even know there's one called Ernest Goes to Africa, Which,
that was one of the later ones.
that might be problematic nowadays. I don't know.
Most assuredly.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I saw that one. One of the last ones I remember seeing was Slam Dunk Ernest. And literally the only thing I remember about that movie was that it's centered around him having like a pair of like sentient shoes or something that have these little eyeballs on the tongue of them. And I just remember this gag where they're like being finicky and he's trying to sleep or something. And if I remember right, they separate from each other, so they jump to either side of the bed, and it's implied that they like tear him in half from the pelvis up.
Jeez.
It's okay. Ernest is invincible. That's like one of his running gags, is that no amount of punish. He's like Wile E. Coyote. It's like you can throw anything you got at him. He's Ernest. He'll be fine. But Ernest Goes to Jail, I think, still holds up to some degree. I mean, it's definitely aiming at very young children. So if you don't have any nostalgia for it, I don't think a lot of it really lands, honestly. But for me, coming back to it as an adult, because I actually haven't owned this Blu-ray for that long, like upon rewatching it was like revisiting childhood, where it's like I had a lot of sense memories. Like things like music cues would hit, and instantly like that whole chunk of the movie would just come back after being forgotten for a decade and a half. And it was a really amazing feeling.
That is cool.
And I found myself just remembering characters and like really weird shit, like just like mannerisms and turns of phrase, because as a kid I was young and stupid. I didn't really understand all of the dialogue, but I remembered the sounds of the dialogue. So that's kind of how I was like remembering the movie, was largely just through like sound, honestly. But there's a lot on offer for Ernest Goes to Jail. I mean, like it actually has a coherent plot, which is not something a lot of these movies have. You have Rimshot, like the adorable little dog. I think it's the same breed as the dog from Frasier. He has a Pee Wee Herman house because it was the style at the time.
Yeah.
And then what's more, you get to see Jim Varney actually do some of his acting shit, because the entire plot is it's a doppelganger story. So Ernest goes to a prison, and he is swapped out for a criminal who happens to bear the same face as him, Mr. Nash, who his visual distinction is that Mr. Nash always has his hair greased back. And he does his Jim Varney smoker voice, like, all dialed up to 11. And, like, that's your visual indicator that you're dealing with Nash and not Ernest. But we keep jumping back and forth between the two of them, so you get to see Jim Varney, like, get to play more than one character for large stretches of the film. So you can tell he got to stretch his wings a little bit. And then the whole finale of the movie feels like a Looney Tunes cartoon. They really do a good job, like setting up all the bowling pins for like a really awesome strike at the end in terms of just like bonkers physical comedy. Because the movie opens with him doing like a Tom and Jerry routine with a floor washer that involves him just utterly destroying an office, and then we call back to that numerous times, and then it ends up, surprise, surprise, kind of saving the day. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's conducted over the series of like a whole bunch of vignettes. You can tell the script had structure, but not that much structure. But yeah, it doesn't get like a super high recommend from me, but like as a piece of nostalgia and something that I watched on repeat quite a few times when I was a little kid, it's special to me. Especially the Ernest P. Worrell Electro Man sequence, which certainly got rewound and played back numerous times because I just like that part. So in addition to being invincible, Ernest is kind of like Godzilla in that he can obtain random superpowers depending on who's in the director's seat. So at one point, Godzilla in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla became an atomic magnet. Because he got struck by lightning, you see, Brad.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
It gives you magnetic powers. It's science. And same goes with Ernest. He gets electrocuted, and he discovers, hey, every time I go electrocute, I turn into a magnet. And sure enough, it it results in him becoming like a walking lightning rod. And there's a sequence in the prison when he's breaking out of prison where he's chucking lightning bolts at things, and I thought it was awesome when I was a kid.
Yeah. Two things. Well, I guess actually three things I want to say. First of all, I'm glad you mentioned this movie because sometimes I think about these movies and I feel like I'm being like Mandela affected and like nobody remembers them or nobody like I don't know, just a weird thing where it's like I wasn't really into them and I'm like, was that a thing? Like, did they exist? Also, which I from what I remember, I like these movies and I don't want to say anything. I don't want to disparage your pick here, but I just want to highlight on the Wikipedia page for Ernest Goes to Jail. Under the review section, it simply says the reviews for the movie were universally negative. No other context given, no Rotten Tomatoes, no snippet of a review. That's all it says. And then I got to mention one of the direct-to-video Ernest films, Ernest Goes to School, directed by Coke Sam's. Who I don't know who he is, but just that's a great name, Coke Sam's. Like that's a great name.
Coke Sam's. It's like, I mean, his name may as well be Kirkland's signature. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks like he was a producer on most of the other ones, but they let him direct Ernest. Goes to School? Is that what I said?
Yeah.
And that's about all he did. I mean, he directed a few other things that I don't recognize, but. Coke Sam's, great name.
Okay, well, you got to give Ernest Goes to Jail like just a half-star bump for Randall Tex Cobb. He only has one line of dialogue in the whole movie, but his physical presence is fantastic in it. Like if you look up a still image of how he looks in the movie, Brad, he has the best haircut. It's like he looks like Barf from Spaceballs, but it's not ears, it's just his hair. And all he does is stand in the background, look intimidating, and then he turns out to be a nice guy at the end because, shocker, he seems like a nice guy in real life. But yeah, you need to give a half star to Randall Tex Cobb.
Hey, I'll do it when I watch it. I'll do it. I'll give it that half-star bump.
You're not gonna watch it, Brad.
I wouldn't say don't say no. If these pop up on like a streaming service, I could see myself marathoning them all. Honestly.
Let's be honest here, Brad. Ernest is readily available on Tubi.
Is it? Oh, well, yeah.
No,
I
haven't checked, but I will jump to conclusions and assume that all of the Ernest films are readily available on Tubi.
I would assume, yeah. That's a good fit. That's a good fit for them. That's where they belong.
Okay, well that's enough talking about the Ernest verse, Brad. What's your next pick?
Let's go with, I don't know. Let's just go with this one because the movie itself, it's been talked to death. Like, there's not really much interesting to say about the movie, but I will just mention it in terms of it being the most rewatched in that, it is the most rewatched movie I've ever seen in a theater, which, I saw it 4 times in theaters. So certainly says something about the film. And that is, Christopher Nolan's Inception. Which, I mean, nowadays I can't even imagine having the time and the desire to watch a movie 4 times in theaters. I can't. I don't know if that'll ever happen again. I really don't. Like, how did I mean, I'll tell you how I had the time. I was in high school. I mean, it was the summer and I was in high school. That's how I had the time. But yeah, 4 times in theaters. It was something. And it was the first 3 times I was into it every single time. This was the movie where I went on a date and we accidentally didn't sit next to each other. So there was that. It was the 4th time. I was with a group of people who hadn't seen it and they wanted to go see it. And I was like, okay, I'll go see it again. 4th time I was getting a little sick of Inception. I was like, I'm a little Inceptioned out right now. But those first 3 times I was still into it each time. And I've definitely seen it several times on home media. This is the 4K, which I don't know if I've actually watched the 4K because the last time I watched it was in Fortnite when they premiered the movie in Fortnite, and you could watch it. Your character could go to the big screen and watch it, and you could see people chucking, I don't even remember what, melons, or I don't even know what people do in that game. I don't play that shit, but had to go watch Inception in Fortnite as Christopher Nolan intended. and because that was my hypothesis that they were going to actually show Tenet as a surprise screening. But yeah, I do love Inception. It's honestly, I think it is my favorite Nolan film. It's not perfect by any means, but I've got a big soft spot for it.
Yeah, I'm due for a rewatch on Inception, to be honest, because I think I've only seen it once, to be honest, and I think it was in the theater. So I have not seen it nearly as many times as you. I don't know it nearly as intimately. I remember having some issues with the third act. Not even the third act, really, because the way the film is structured is very unique. It was more anything involving the snow landscape. I was thoroughly checked out. It was just like,
okay, yeah.
I just found that part of it just not terribly engaging, and we kind of dilly-dally around in there while much, much, much more interesting things are going on. And it suffers a little bit from Christopher Nolan's seeming aversion to violence as a form of spectacle. He likes action, not violence. Mm-hmm. And it results in a lot of situations of people pointing guns in people's general direction, and then people either falling down or just like kind of listing out of the frame. He's really not fond of showing graphic detail when it comes to violence. And in the case of, a bunch of people zipping around shooting at each other in the snow, it's like, I could use some fireballs every once in a while. I could use some 90s gasoline explosions every now and again just to spice it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But the structure of the film, the way it's edited together, in my memory anyway, is truly remarkable. Like the editing of it very much is like a magic trick unto itself. I think it's fitting that he would do a movie about magic, because I think that's how he thinks of films, as a form of modern day magic. And yeah, the structure of the edits of that film, once they do what's the terminology they use to jump into different layers of dreams?
Well, I know when they wake up, it's called the kick.
Yeah.
That's what wakes them up.
Yeah. So,
but I don't remember what it's called when they go further down. I've only seen the movie 18 fucking times, but
no, I remember the kick, but
yeah.
I don't know if there was terminology to support that, but just like balancing all of that in the final ed of the film, keeping track of all those elements, very difficult. You have to have a very particular set of skills to make that really work, and for the most part, I feel they did.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading that Hans Zimmer's score for the movie, there's a piece of music that plays earlier in the film that apparently they transposed onto the dream portions of the film, and the way they composed it was they like literally stretched the composition to match the time situation in the film. Sounds really interesting on paper. I can't really remember how it actually felt to listen to. It's like, that could sound really cool on paper, but like in actuality, it sounds like dog shit. But no, I actually don't remember, but I do know that the soundtrack is often praised, so more than likely it was successful on that front. But I have never seen a movie in theaters 4 times. I think I've only seen like a couple of movies twice. One of which,
never done a three-peat? You've never done a three-peat?
Never done a three-peat. The only 2 movies that I've seen more than once, I'm kind of embarrassed by. At least one of them, anyway. It was Men in Black 2, of all fucking things.
Ooh.
Like,
yeah,
arguably the least of the Men in Black films, aside from maybe International, which I don't need to see.
I forgot. Yeah, that's right.
Most people forget that even exists.
I need to see that still.
I just don't. I can't be bothered. I just don't care.
Yeah.
I really just don't care. Even though I do generally like Men in Black 1, I love. Like that's a movie that I should own. I don't for some reason, but I watched that a shit ton of times. I love that movie. But Men in Black 2, it's not great, but there was a girl involved, and I lied and was like, yeah, I haven't seen that not so great movie. I got an invitation. I didn't know how to go about that, so I just said yes.
That happens, man. You got to take one for the team, and in this case, the team being yourself.
Yeah.
So
I got to see a mediocre movie a second time. It wasn't the worst way to spend an evening. But the other one I saw twice was The Dark Knight Rises, and again, it was because of a woman. Seeing a theme here, Brad. It was a situation where I again was asked to go see it, and I kind of just was like, "Yeah, I've already seen it, but sure."
Yeah. So basically, if you've seen a movie in theaters and I invite you to go again, you won't go see a movie in theaters again for me.
I don't know. I'm generally a nice guy. I'm a people pleaser. If you asked me, I probably would go with you, Brad.
You mentioned Dark Knight Rises. I may have seen that one 3 times. I know I saw it twice for sure, because I saw it once at just a regular screening, and then I did see it again in IMAX. And I don't know, man. It might have been only twice. Now I'm trying to think, has there been any time where I've seen something 3 times, or do I only have 2 and the one 4? And I can't think. I'm trying to think what else I would have seen 3 times. But
well, you're thinking Dark Knight Rises. I actually saw for the first time in kind of a cool way. It was the first time I've ever done anything. Well, first and probably only time I've ever done anything like that. I drove down to Olympia, which is about 70 miles south of where I'm at, to meet up with my good buddy, and we went to a midnight premiere, preceded by both Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. So I got to spend 9 hours in the theater or whatever.
Yeah.
I snuck in a bunch of Cliff Bars and was backed up for like a week after. Cliff Bars do not have friendly fiber. I'll just say that much.
Hey, you got to do the marathon. You got to do it though. I mean, come on.
I mean, it ended up being a really good time. Like, I was tired as shit, especially after that drive, but it was a really important movie for me. I was hyped about it in a way that I seldom get for big mainstream movies and stuff. And it ended up being not half bad, if you ask me. A lot of people shit on that movie, but I think it's fine. Like, I don't think it's
still
awful.
Good.
Yeah, it was good enough. But Inception, I would like to watch again. Folks at home, if you're not aware, Brad actually talked in detail about his Fortnite experience watching Inception. Truly hysterical stuff. I installed and played Fortnite for like 20 minutes total several years ago, and I came to the conclusion I am too fucking old for this shit.
Yep, that's fair.
Yeah, no, I would need an extra pair of arms and set of eyes just to get a handle on the controls for that game. But it is still incredibly popular, and it's still being... I think they're using it as like a testing lab for content delivery services because it's so incredibly popular and because it has such an immense player base. And just from a sheer like technical perspective, I think it's a really interesting test kitchen for product exhibition, because the logistics of making these servers work is probably really interesting stuff that's way above either of our heads. But I mean, they just had a Ariana Grande concert in there, and then they had the Marshmallow one a few years ago. That was the first one. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Brad, that probably somebody was testing the waters for like, what if we did a movie premiere in Fortnite at some point? So maybe not for Tenet, but down the line, I will not be shocked at all if we do see an actual movie premiere via Fortnite someday.
Could be Clifford. Clifford got delayed. Could be Clifford.
Yeah, and as of recording this, apparently Venom 2 got delayed as well.
Yeah, could be Venom. They only delayed it a month to throw us off.
No,
but,
they're saving it for Morbius. I mean, yeah.
When is that scheduled?
I have no fucking clue. That movie, I'm just like, why? Like, why?
Yeah.
Who the fuck gives a shit about Morbius?
That is top tier Fortnite material. That fit right at home with Fortnite.
I mean, to quote the Red Letter Media guys, that movie just reeks of "fuck you, it's January," where it's like, we don't have a home for this, so we're just gonna dump it in January and hope for the best. Because I'm sorry, nobody cares about Morbius, and I'm pretty sure we're not that thirsty for new vampire content. Although I have heard that the Twilight franchise has had a bit of a reevaluation amidst COVID, because everybody was stuck indoors and they're wanting their media security blankets. So everybody
Yeah.
went back to the things that they're into when they were young, and now apparently people are softening on that. So maybe we're due for more vampire shit. I don't think Morbius is going to be the tip of that particular spear, though.
No, I'm so out on that movie. It's not even like, yeah.
Yeah, no. How could you care? But Brad's experience watching Inception in Fortnite was really incredible to hear him and his buddy talk about, though, because
Well, thank you.
oh yeah, you made it sound like it was a bunch of kids throwing like digital tomatoes at the screen, and
That's right, tomatoes. That's what it was. Yeah,
it was like tomatoes, and then you said there was some kind of like trampolines rigged up that it sounded like people could set them under you or something.
Yeah.
So like your perspective would get jostled.
And then people would be trying to like get into like corners. Like you could get into a corner where they couldn't throw a trampoline on you, and then people would just be standing there trying to find like go to every single possible angle to try and get the trampoline under you, and eventually they would. So you'd find a nice spot for 5 minutes, and then you'd launch up in the air, and yeah, it was fun. It was fun, man.
I mean, I think it could only be fun if it's a movie you already know really well. Like in my case, if it was like Wayne's World or something, it's just like I already know. It doesn't really matter if I'm watching it or not. I'm just kind of here. But if it was like a premiere or something, Brad, I'm pretty sure you would be like on the fucking phone with the administrators of Fortnite, be like, "These fucking kids are setting trampolines under me."
yeah. I mean, but that's why I thought, if Christopher Nolan, he was really upset at theater shutting down. If he really wanted to give him the big middle finger, I mean, that's what, just drop it in Tenet or drop Tenet in Fortnite, man. Yeah, he didn't quite go that route. Honestly, that might have been better for the movie. I mean, I don't know what the release of that movie, I don't think went Christopher Nolan's way, to be honest.
Yeah, actually, like in the midst of all this, I don't know, separation news between Scarlett Johansson and Marvel and delays of all these big movies, very quietly on the side, we also have the Warner Brothers and Christopher Nolan situation where it's like he wasn't particularly happy with them, nor was he quiet about it. So I haven't heard anything about any official separations or strained relations, but that wasn't pretty. And it stands to reason that it might affect relations going forward. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah,
hopefully it works out, though, because I really do value Christopher Nolan's presence in the media landscape. Like his movies I don't think are the best movies, but they're distinct products, and I'm really glad that we get them every once in a while, because they really are. There's a sense of like authorship that's just not there with a lot of the other shit that's out there. So it's even if it's not great, it's kind of neat knowing that it's like, hey, I know what to expect.
You got to get hype for it. You got to get hype.
Yeah, you got to. Okay, well, that was Inception. So where do I go from there? Shit. I'm gonna throw you a curveball, Brad. So this one doesn't play off of your pick at all. Holy shit! I never realized how bad the cover art was.
Oh boy, let's see what we got here.
Again, very similar to some of the other covers I've held up to the webcam. You probably can't tell because of the low res, but the resolution used for the cover photo is just, you can see the pixels as big as cats, as they would say. So this is something that came from a really neat period of time where we were getting TV movies. You remember that, Brad? Like, I don't know. Do they still do that? Like, I think ever since like the 70s, like TV movies, like event movies were a really big thing. And very few of them were actually good. But like it actually felt like it mattered. Like the world would just stop and everybody would just be like, "Oh, Stephen King's It spread across 2 nights. We got to watch that." It's like, was it any good? It was fine. I watched it.
Yep.
But like every few years, especially in the 90s, TV movies were a really, really big thing. And there were only a handful that I personally got invested in because I was a dumb fucking kid. But this was one of them. So this was Peter Benchley's The Beast.
Oh, okay.
And I'm pretty sure that photo they used for the woman in the bikini, I think she's smiling. Like, I'm pretty sure they used a stock photo of a woman coming out of the water, and I don't even think they doctored her expression. I'm pretty sure she's just kind of like going.
I mean, maybe she's into that kind of thing. Some people are into those tentacles.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if you're familiar with the source material for this, but this, along with Creature, which came out, I think, a few years after this, were two TV movies that really leaned heavily into Peter Benchley's name, because it was during the 90s in particular. I seem to remember Shark Week was becoming a thing, and bolstering that was Jaws being on endless repeat. Right there, folks.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Yeah, Jaws was on repeat
Preach
on like TNT and TBS and USA, pretty much all the cable networks throughout all of the 90s, which is how I came to know and love Jaws. Again, a movie I watched with my dad countless times. Again, a movie that is probably over here in multiple formats. But I think because Jaws being very, very successful on cable and Shark Week on Discovery being very, very, very successful, we got a lot of Peter Benchley adaptations in the form of The Beast and Creature, starring Craig T. Nelson. But The Beast was a two-parter, as was Creature. And this one was headlined by William Peterson, the CSI guy, the Manhunter guy.
Yep.
And I didn't know him as either of those things when I saw this. I just knew this as the Giant Squid movie. And, of course, my dad was telling me that, oh, Peter Benchley, that's the guy who did that movie with the shark that you like. So, like, when I knew that, I was like, Giant Squid, shark guy, oh, my God, I don't even care if it's good. I need to watch this shit.
Yeah.
So I had my parents record this off the television, on VHS. I think only the second half of it actually saved, though, because all of my memories of watching this countless times as a child only involved watching part 2.
Yeah.
Which picks off at a very abrupt point where it's just like, if you don't remember what happened in that first part, good luck. We're not going to talk about it. So it's like, oh, okay. But the plot of this is really basic monster movie or eat 'em up material. Very similar to like Gorgo, if you're at all familiar with that.
I don't think so.
Gorgo's a pretty good one. It's like Godzilla but British.
Okay.
And I think it came out in the 60s. It uses the same special effects technology, so man in a rubber dinosaur costume, but transposed onto London. And the miniature work is really, really good in it. You get to see him trash Big Ben, which is pretty cool. But on top of that, it also has a uniquely British sensibility about it. And it translates into the destruction scenes. Like, remembering it now as an adult, it's like, huh, that kind of makes sense that they'd show a lot of scenes of Gorgo smashing buildings and having rubble fall on people, because, you know, they did kind of go through that whole World War II thing. So a lot of the people making this movie less than 20 years down the road probably know what that looked like.
Yeah.
But what I mean by the connection to Gorgo, though, is Jaws 3 actually is one that you might know better. Do you remember the story of Jaws 3 at all?
Like the actual, like the plot of the movie?
Yeah, the all-important plot of Jaws 3.
Okay, I didn't know if you meant like there was like some behind-the-scenes story.
No.
I mean, it's at a like an aquarium or something, right?
It's SeaWorld. And
yeah.
I mean, really, the answer to the plot of Jaws 3 is Dennis Quaid wears short shorts and screams a lot. And there's your movie. Oh, yeah, and the Manimals in it as well. But no, the plot of Jaws 3 involves two sharks. So we have a red herring type situation in the form of, oh, there's a shark in SeaWorld. We got to do something about it. We got to catch the shark. Oh, no, it turns out the shark had a mom that's even bigger and is really pissed off. And that's the plot of The Beast, except for the giant squid of all things, where it's like the part 1, because it was spread out across 2 nights, because that was the style at the time, even if you really didn't have a script to support it. A lot of these movies just farted the fuck around. I don't know how I had the patience for them, to be honest, as a kid. Somehow I did. But yeah, so the plot of The Beast is there's a giant squid in some new, like, I think it's like Maine or like some New England port town or something. A giant fucking squid attacks them. They kill it with rifles. Go figure. That's what you do to kill a squid, apparently. Then it turns out it has a mom that's emotional about the loss of its squid child.
Oh yeah.
The mom's bigger and angry, and goes to town, like on the town via the sea. So it turns into it at the very end. It literally turns into Jaws with all the important characters getting on a boat, going out to sea, and fighting a giant squid. And it's a fun one. I would highly recommend it because I know obviously you have the poster behind you, Brad. You're a big fan of eat 'em ups. You're a big fan of Jaws.
Poster of Jaws, not of the Beast or whatever.
The television movie The Beast. Yeah, the not well remembered television movie that for whatever reason I latched onto. I think my two favorite television movies, aside from Stephen King stuff, because most of that is pretty good. The Langoliers can suck a lemon, but most of the Stephen King ones were pretty good. But I think The Beast and the Armand Assante Odyssey two-parter. I think those are my two favorite television movies. I also have that one on DVD.
Okay, yeah. For me, pretty much the ones that I know are all the Stephen King ones.
Yeah.
Those are pretty much... now, I can't remember. That's a DVD that you held up, right?
Yes.
Now, could potentially... Vinegar Syndrome last, a few months ago now, but they came out with a new box set called Televised Terror Volume 1. Or is there any hope that this could be included in a future box set with the Televised Terror label?
Doubtful. This one says NBC Universal. But the disc looks like it was put out by Timeless Media Group, who I have no idea who they are, but the fact that it's tied in with Universal would suggest that maybe even for something like Peter Benchley's The Beast, licensing could be difficult.
Yeah.
But that would be cool. I know Creature, which if you ask me is a vastly inferior film, I know that has a Blu-ray release, which was really shocking to me. I've had that like dog-eared on my movie wish list for ages. I don't expect I'll ever end up buying that because aside from the novelty of Craig T. Nelson in the Bahamas or whatever, like Coach in the Bahamas, aside from that, it really has very little to offer. Although, something that was really cool in my childhood was my dad told me about makeup effects artists when I was young. Rick Baker, who he endlessly hyped because of American Werewolf in London. He like really hammered it into my head from a very early age that this is top tier shit. Respect it. And then beyond that, though, Stan Winston, he kind of, I don't know how he knew, but he told me all about Stan Winston and how like, a lot of the coolest shit that you like came from this goofy looking guy with glasses. It was like, oh, Stan.
Nice.
So Stan Winston, even in childhood, was a selling point for me, like a big one. And Creature used him as an advertising point that they said like Stan Winston did the Creature effects for it for Creature. That element of it is actually quite good. The design of the monster is kind of awesome. It's kind of funny that we just have the recent release of James Gunn's Suicide Squad because the monster in it is a bipedal humanoid shark. Very similar to King Shark. The creature in Creatures, it's supposed to be, I think, like a shark dolphin man. Yeah, on paper that sounds fucking stupid.
Okay.
It looks fantastic, but because it's a TV movie, they don't do shit with it. Like in terms of gore, there is nothing on offer, and it's really disappointing because of that. Because the thing looks amazing, but you don't let it do nothing. At least the Beast like racks up a fucking body count. Like
that's good.
Like the special effects in Beast are like questionable as fuck. Like it's mostly like rubber tentacle shit where it's just the guy doing the they're doing the Bela Lugosi routine in Ed Wood where they drape the tentacle over themselves and then fight it like I can't seem to pry myself free. Never mind that I'm making it worse. It's mostly that shit. It's a lot of that and stage hands from just outside the frame throwing fun noodles at people. And then like a little bit of stop motion and I don't know. I was able to see past all of that as a kid, and even to this day, I kind of have a soft spot for this movie. And I think a large part of it comes from the Peter Benchley factor, to be honest.
Yeah.
Where it's Peter Benchley as put through someone else as a buffer, because I read Jaws. That movie is so much better than that book. So if you take Peter Benchley's ideas and his characters and you put them through a little bit of a filter, you can get some good shit out of it, as evidenced by Jaws. But what I mean by the Peter Benchleyisms is just the fucking town. Like the town has a pleasant feel to it. And then when the sea monster tears these people apart, you care just enough. I mean, it's not anywhere near equal to Jaws, but it's a pleasant watch. Unfortunately, it is a 2-part television movie, so it's not kind to your schedule. But like I said, most of my memories of it are just watching the second half. So I kind of found my own way to watch it. Probably the better way, honestly, because my God, some of these movies just fart the fuck around for like a half an hour at a time.
Yeah. Now, so was this based on a novel by Peter Benchley?
It was.
Okay, I didn't know if like NBC was like, hey, we'll give you a couple grand or whip up a quick script that we can slap your name on and advertise as the guy from Jaws. But okay, it was based on one of his novels.
No, it Creature was as well. I didn't finish reading Creature. I did read The Beast. The ending is totally different in the book. In the book, it's really fucking lame. A Deus Ex Machina whale shows up and eats the beast. It's like, okay. Oh, thanks, whale. But in this one, we get a gasoline explosion because 90s.
Yeah. So what year was it exactly?
Oh shit. Let me see here. 1996.
Well, I mean, it sounds like with the effects, sounds like it's lucky because if it had been a few years later, you might have gotten some real dodgy CG seeping in there.
Brad, I'm so glad you brought that up, and this will be the last thing I say about the Beast. Do you remember the fervor that was built up in the promotion for Godzilla 1998?
I mean, I don't know if I remember the fervor other than Rage Against the Machine being on the soundtrack.
Okay, so Godzilla 1998, I've shared this story countless times, so I won't repeat it in detail. Only movie my mother ever apologized to me for taking me to see on my birthday, because, as I mentioned earlier, Godzilla was and continues to be one of my very favorite things in movies. And I was so goddamn hyped for that movie, because, it's a big-budget American Godzilla movie. I was, 11 at the time? So just young enough where I could still be hurt by such things, but that movie just like slapped me in the dick and said, "Walk it off, son." Like, we'll do good like a decade later. But
yeah,
surrounding the hype for that movie was very similar to like a Home Alone, although preemptively, actually more similar to Carnosaur and Jurassic Park. So what happened was the marketing train was right rolling along for Godzilla 1998 so strongly that a whole bunch of people decided to preemptively release Godzilla adjacent film productions. So Carnosaur, famously, because it's a Roger Corman production, was actually released prior to Jurassic Park because he's Roger Corman. He knows Jurassic Park's going to be a mega hit. So if he puts his out first, it's like, I wasn't imitating them. I was ahead of the curve. That guy's a genius. I hope we get a really awesome documentary about him before he passes, because that guy has a lot of cool stories. But for Godzilla 1998, I remember distinctly there were at least 2 TV movies all sporting some of the most awful fucking CGI you could imagine on like major basic cable networks like NBC or ABC or one of those. And one of them I think was it's like Gigantus or something, or there were 2 of them though. There were 2 of these movies, 2 separate like Godzilla adjacent properties that came out prior to the release of this thing, and they were both total fucking shit. I think one was like Behemoth or something, and the other was something also implying bigness of some sort, and they both totally fucking sucked. And you better believe I watched both of them.
But, of course.
But yeah, it was terrible.
I mean, especially if they're free on TV. I mean, why would you not?
Yeah, no, but I'll never forget that. It was either around the release of Godzilla, or The Lost World, because that Lost World I think came out only a year prior. So large reptilian things were a really big deal, even for television movies at the time.
Yeah. You know, it's funny that you brought up Godzilla 98 because I didn't pull it off the shelf, but unfortunately I could have, because I was younger, so I was not old enough to be hurt, or however you put it. It couldn't hurt me. I was too young. I was too young to know any better.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because like both you and Kyle both have that kind of relationship with that movie. It's like it's hard for me to step into your shoes and like be like, how could you not be like grossly offended by that piece of shit? But in recent years, I have softened quite a bit. Like Kyle and I, one of the earliest things we did for Catching Up on Cinema was a compare and contrast with Godzilla 2014 and 1998, and I feel that I was very fair to that movie. I do feel like, much like a lot of Roland Emmerich movies, starts off really, really, really strong. Like, first 40 minutes of that movie are great. Mm-hmm. And then it starts actually, you see the damn thing, and then it's like, oh, well, I guess we're done, folks.
Yeah, that's it. It's over.
Yep. We had fun.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that was The Beast. So, Brad, the ball is to you, sir. What you got?
Well, I'm going to go with a movie that I know for sure you have not seen, unless you've watched it within the last month, but I doubt it. And it's a movie that I'm honestly am kind of shocked that you haven't seen it, to be honest. Every time you say, I haven't seen this one yet, I'm like, I'm very surprised, very surprised. And that is, let's I don't even know how to lead up to it. Let's just say it. It's Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead, which is the only film from the Cornetto trilogy that you have not seen, correct?
Correct.
And I don't mean to drag you in the mud or anything when I say that. That sounded more hostile than I wanted it to. But I love Shaun of the Dead, and I like the whole Cornetto trilogy, but definitely for me, Shaun of the Dead is the best one, and I think the simple reason is, while I love Hot Fuzz and The World's End, Shaun of the Dead it's a great comedy. It's very clever. It's funny, but it is such a good zombie movie. It's incredible that this movie that is kind of like a spoof of the zombie genre, a comedy first and foremost, how much better it is at being a zombie movie than 99% of zombie movies, like, that are just straight up trying to be a zombie horror film. Like, everything with them trying to get to the bar, and just like the plan, and just like, kind of the, being with a relatable group of people trying to survive the zombie apocalypse. Sure, there's the jokes and the gags and the goofy stuff, but it really does feel like a group of people that you know and would hang out with, and what you would maybe do if you were in the middle of London and a zombie apocalypse hit. Yeah, I've seen this movie tons of times. One of those movies that you can annoyingly quote. I've seen it so many times. And I think it's Edgar Wright's best film. I think it's been all downhill from here. But no, yeah, I do love this movie a lot, and it's one that, I could just put on and just watch anytime. Like, I don't have cable anymore, but if I did, it would be the kind of film where if it's on cable, you would sit down and watch it till the end.
No, I've heard nothing but good things about Shaun of the Dead, and I owe it to myself to get around to watching it, because like you said, of the Cornetto trilogy, it's the only one I haven't seen. It's the first one, and from what I understand, most people think of it as the best one, although there was a stretch of time, and this may have to do with the stretch of time which I'm referencing here, where I feel like Hot Fuzz got a lot of love showered on it. But again, that may have just been the general age group of the people that I was surrounded by. Like, I think we were all in our like early 20s, like probably straight out of college or something. So it's like, I could see that being like a moment in time or something. But upon rewatching, I wouldn't doubt it that Shaun of the Dead's the superior of them. But yeah, what like when you say it's like an exceptional, just straight up zombie movie, does that have to do with like the situations they find themselves in, the emotionality? Like where does that come from?
Yeah, I would say both those things. I mean, like the characters, it's not only existing for laughs. Like there's some really solid stuff with the characters. And I mean that's the case in pretty much all of the Cornetto films. Like the main friendship is very strong. But I mean just like it's a great film in terms of like the gore. Like there's some great gore in here, and especially watching this at an age where I don't want to say I was too young to see it, but there's a couple moments in here where it's like, whoa, I don't think I've seen that in a movie before. And now it's like, okay, now I go back and I'm like, oh, that was a reference to this zombie movie, blah, blah, blah. But it's like at the time, like kind of like shocking stuff. And it gets very dark at times too. Without getting into spoilers, there's some deaths that are very emotional and very hard on the characters, and it kind of like the comedy just goes away for like there's a solid chunk of the film. I think people who have seen the film will know kind of what I'm talking about. There's a good solid sequence of the movie where it gets like real serious, and there's like some moral debates going on, and like bring up some interesting ideas that are like absent from a lot of zombie films. Like it really gets into that kind of thing. And I think it's just a really great film. It's like something kind of similar to Dawn of the Dead, like the idea of going to this place to sort of like seek shelter and getting there, and then like eventually it kind of all turns to shit in the third act, and even though they don't get to the bar until close to the end of the film, but it's kind of got that same feel to it. And I love this film. It's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about the zombie movie, like as a genre, but it, for whatever reason, for like my brother and myself and like all of our people in our social circle, the zombie movie always felt like the first movie we all want to make, and for some reason it makes that particular subgenre like especially beloved, where it's like there's some sort of resonance there, where it's like I think a lot of it has to do with the structure of it, like you said, like all the characters and the idea of getting together a close knit group of people to go and like seek shelter or something. It's very relatable regardless of what kind of person or what kind of upbringing you had. And in terms of resources, all you need is a couple of shithead friends that are willing to roll around in the mud a little bit and go, yep. And maybe a bottle of ketchup or something. if you're ambitious.
And I gotta just give this film credit how, I mean, obviously there were zombie movies well before this, but really the huge zombie boom of the 2000s, like this film kind of, along with the Dawn of the Dead remake, like kind of kicked it off. I mean zombies were just like everywhere from the mid 2000s to like 20, like even today it's still, I mean, it's kind of died down a little bit, but it's still there. And I mean, this film, if it came out now, it'd probably be like, all right, we've seen this shit a million times before, but at the time I think it was ahead of the curve.
No, it kind of similar to A Christmas Story. The general ubiquity of zombie properties these days is we've reached critical mass such that I personally have distanced myself from that stuff quite a bit because I'm just a little bit tired of it. But every once in a while, I'll like be flipping around on the internet and I'll just see like The Walking Dead has how many spinoffs? And all of them are how many seasons deep? Like this shit never ends.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. It's crazy.
No, it's bonkers. Bananas even. But Brett, let me ask you, have you ever seen Biozombie?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, I think it came out in the late 90s. I want to say, I'm guessing, like 98. It's directed by Wilson Yip, same guy who made Ip Man and quite a few of Donnie Yen's bigger movies from the mid-2000s onward. It's an exceptional little zombie movie. It's a Hong Kong film, but my brother bought a bootleg DVD of it ages ago, and he introduced me to it when I was probably in like high school or something. And that's like an underseen one that it's worth a watch because it's very much of its time. It's very similar to like a Dawn of the Dead because it takes place in a shopping mall, but it has it has a really particular like semi-anarchic kind of feel to it, where it's very much a youth-oriented movie where they just kind of throw all the editing rules and conventions out the window. Like there's a straight up like video game reference in there. It's almost like I think it's a nod to like Resident Evil, where they're like introducing all the characters and showing all the like their weapons and stuff, and it's like this girl's got a fucking frying pan and nothing else. But they do a lot of really interesting character work in there. Like there's a romance between I think he's like working in a sushi restaurant in the mall, and he's like this nerdy guy who gets infected and becomes a zombie, but he's still trying to like cater to the girl he likes. So he's not trying to bite her, he's trying to romance her, and he's still like trying to make sushi for her. And then without spoiling it, the ending for it is one that's like, I don't know if I should be mad at this movie for having this good of an ending, like, because it's like, man, somebody out there is just like super fucking jealous that they can't use that as their ending, because it's like it punches so high above its weight when it gets to its final sequence. It's like, what? How? What?
Yeah, I'm looking up some images of it. I mean, it looks pretty cool. I'm kind of getting a pretty good sense of what I think it kind of is based on this, but it looks fun. I mean, I've talked about being ahead of the curve. I mean, this movie in 98, jeez.
Oh, it was 98?
Yeah, 98. Well, yeah, that's what it says here, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool. I remembered. I didn't expect I would, but fun is the key word. Like, it's meant to be fun. It's definitely got a little bit of Sam Raimi Evil Dead in there, for sure. But I would highly recommend it. It's an exceptional little zombie movie, and it does retain that sense of fun that I want to say Shaun of the Dead probably has in fits and spurts. But like, I don't know, you probably know Edgar Wright better than I do, like as a director, but he seems to have a knack for like balancing a lot of really complex tonality throughout his films, where he's not afraid to make things like deathly serious from time to time, and yet somehow you walk away from the thing feeling like it was fairly cohesive. Although Baby Driver, I would argue that wasn't exactly 100% successful.
Yeah, see, that's why I'm almost thinking a lot of it might be, I mean, he did write the trilogy, but I think a lot of it might be in the scripts. I mean,
I think you're right, Brad.
Yeah, like I hate this guy. What is it called? Last Night in Soho, or whatever his next movie is. If that movie's not a banger, then I think we've got a case on our hands. I think we might have to take him to movie court. That he has been soaking in the success that Simon Pegg gave him for too long. We gotta put this guy's feet to the fire.
Well, at the very least, I would expect it to be visually engaging. Like, that seems to be a consistent thing. His editing, his shots, his lighting, always top notch. But yeah, I think you're right, though. I want to say a good portion of that magic actually belongs to Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
Like, man, just think about it. Like, I'd be so much more excited to find out that the three of them are going to do a movie together versus, like, whatever Edgar Wright's doing on his own. Like, as I'm going to see his new movie, but I got to be honest, like, I don't really care. Like, I mean, I hope it's good, but like, even the trailer, like, I was like, yeah, like you said, visually looks good. Other than that, it didn't really do much for me.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. I mean, case in point, neither of us can seem to remember 100% for certain the title of the damn thing, but I certainly can't. You remembered more than me. I just remember some of the shots from the trailer. Other than that, I was like, I don't really know what the fuck's going on. It looks cool, though.
I'm going to come down on this movie so hard. I can't wait.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to you giving it a good verbal drubbing. No, it might have some merit to it. Who knows?
I'm sure it will. I mean,
yeah.
It'll be like Baby Driver. I'll come down hard on it, and then I'll be like, it's like a 3.5.
I don't know how many movie discussions I've had that end like that. It's like, You've been shitting on this for 2.5 hours, and you give it a 3.5. It's like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. You got to keep it interesting, man. You can't just like say, oh, this was great, this was great, that was great, that was great. Like, you gotta,
Okay, well, you want this to be my last one, Brad?
Yeah, we can do that, man. That'd work.
Okay, well, my next pick, It should be Transformers the movie, because Transformers the movie, much like Godzilla, should be all of my picks for this particular criteria. But I've already talked about that quite a few times. I did put it aside, but I've talked about it so many fucking times. So this one is another animated film, though, and one that I watched countless times as a youth. And this one always stuck with me for, I think, a reason that's very common among young people. It scared me a little bit, but in that good way that made it engaging and memorable, not like just like utterly terrifying and like nightmare fuel kind of shit. It was just like it treated me like a slightly older person, and I appreciate and gain something from that. So this
is going to be Watership Down?
No, actually, I've never seen that, but I know it by reputation, and yeah,
I've never seen it either.
A lot of people had to grow up real fucking fast when they saw that, apparently, because yeah, I've seen a couple of clips. I was like, oh Jesus fuck,
yeah,
that is a rabbit that's fucking up another rabbit. No, this is. And my God, the cover art for this is horrendous. It does not reflect the tone of the film. This is The Secret of NIHM.
Oh, okay.
Which is a Don Bluth production. I think it was his first feature film after he parted ways with Disney and formed his own production company. And he would go on to have a storied career in the animation world. A lot of hits, a lot of misses, but very distinctive style. I mean, The Land Before Time got up to 14 sequels, and American Tail. That's a movie actually that I really, really have to rewatch, because I don't know what it was, man, but when I was a kid, for some reason, number 2 was the movie that I latched onto the most.
Really?
Yeah, like Terminator 2, Aliens, Home Alone 2, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, and American Tail, Fievel Goes West, as opposed to the first American Tail. For whatever reason, I really fucking loved Fievel Goes West. And that's a movie I haven't seen. Unlike Secret of NIHM, which I've seen as an adult and really enjoyed. And American Tail 2, I have not seen since I was a very little kid, so that could be total shit for all I know.
Well, even Ernest Goes to Jail, there's another sequel. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's number 2. I don't think so, but
I think it was 3 or 4. It's
probably 4 or 5 or something. But yeah, Secret of NIHM is a tremendous animated film. It's got a lot of Don Bluth signatures in it. It has a really interesting, perspective on faith and science. It kind of touches on both of those worlds a little bit, but not explicitly so. It kind of leaves things very open-ended. It doesn't hammer either point home. His character designs are distinctly his. There's a certain shape and character to his design work that it's unmistakable. But more than that, the thing that always resonated with me about this was the tone. It's deathly serious at times. And then Dom DeLuise shows up, and we're having fun. And then all of a sudden, it's oh my God! The farmer is pushing the farm equipment over the mice, over the mouse home. All the rabbits are running away from the thresher blades and stuff. And I think it was Jerry Goldsmith did the score. I'll have to double check, but the score for this movie is tremendous. And everything, yeah, Jerry Goldsmith. He really did a fantastic job with it. It strikes a really fascinating tone for what you would think of as a children's movie. Even the way the dialogue is structured, some of the word choice and just the strength of the delivery. It doesn't sugarcoat things. It talks at its own level. It doesn't punch down at you as a little kid. So a lot of things I was finding myself not really entirely understanding, but I found the whole thing so engaging, mostly because it's absolutely beautiful to look at. Some of the background renderings and some of the environments they create are just so utterly gorgeous to behold. When Mrs. Brisby, it's based on a book, but they, for whatever reason, they had to rename the main character. When she goes to visit the rats of NIHM, their lair is underneath a rose bush. And somehow they turned the innards of this rose bush into like this techno-organic landscape that's just like so utterly alien and bewildering that it's like, I don't even know what we're fucking doing right now, but it's cool. And so many monsters and creatures pop up that feel at like very cohesive, but have a particular type of menace to them that seems like engineered like specifically to scare children. Like there's this really awesome, like, it's not a jump scare. There's this really awesome bit where a spider comes down from the ceiling and like it's like fucking dripping saliva. Like they really play up how nasty this fucking spider is. And it's like licking its chops, a spider. And it's a mean, nasty looking fucking spider. It's the size of a rat. It's terrifying. But they do this, like, they catch you sideways with it where the spider's about to eat our main character, and then all of a sudden this talon comes down from the ceiling and squishes it. And then we get introduced to an even bigger and more threatening creature in the form of an owl. That its introduction, again, a lot of this movie feels distinctly engineered just to terrify children. So the introduction of this owl, its head is upside down. So, like, it has to, like, turn its whole fucking neck over, and it has these glowing golden eyes. It's like, ah! But it's so memorable. And then, of course, for a little boy, it ends with a sword fight. And, like,
cool.
You know, I was, like, just waiting the whole movie for that part. Because it's like, at this point, I had seen The Adventures of Robin Hood, which also ends with a sword fight. And I was like, when can we get to the fireworks factory?
Yeah.
But have you seen this, Brad?
I don't think I have. I know I've seen definitely The Land Before Time, and I'm pretty sure American Tail. Like, I don't know, like, when these came out in relation to one another. Is there any reason why this one is the one that you seem to go back to more often?
Well, I was really into The Land Before Time because of dinosaurs, and and American Tail, Five Will Goes West, I watched quite a bit as well. The reason why this one stuck with me the most, and the reason I watched it the most, I think, was probably the sword fight. But
hey, well, that's good enough reason for me.
But beyond that, I'm not entirely sure, actually, because those other two movies were much more approachable. I had access to them at other people's homes as well. Like if I was hanging out with my friends, a lot of them, their parents owned those as well. But this one, I don't think any of my friends had. So like I could only watch it at home with like my mom or something. But yeah, I couldn't tell you why this one in particular was the one that really jumped out at me. I was never a big fan of All Dogs Go to Heaven, to be honest. I found that movie very jarring and like disquieting in a way that, like, Secret of NIHM is scary, don't get me wrong, but All Dogs Go to Heaven, I was on edge the whole time because the emotional whiplash that a lot of the characters go through, it's just like, I can't trust anyone in this movie. Everybody's gonna flip out and get all weird on me.
Yeah, I didn't watch that one too much either, I don't think. And I don't think I've ever seen the sequel with Charlie Sheen, but I probably should. But, you know, what can you do?
Yeah, Don Bluth did fall pretty hard at some point. I think the cutoff point was Rockadoodle. I want to say that was the one that, like, started him on the downward spiral. Because I'll never forget, like, the marketing for that. I was just like, I don't even know what the fuck we're doing anymore.
Now, is he directing these, or is he just, like, producing them?
I actually don't know how that works. Animation world seems like a different landscape when it comes to how authorial like intent is assigned, like what titles are assigned to whom. Because there's a lot of shocking instances where certain names get pushed into the limelight that actually aren't the director. Like Nightmare Before Christmas in particular is one of the most famous instances where it's like, that's not Tim Burton didn't direct that film, but his name is all over the marketing for it. So I don't actually know if Don Bluth himself served as director, but I know for certain he did for Secret of NIHM. But then again, I think that, like I said, was his first feature after he parted ways with Disney. So it was either going to be him or no one.
Yeah, I had no idea. I mean, I kind of knew these movies were all related. I had no idea he was the guy behind them all.
if you look at the character designs, like if you just take a couple minutes and like compare them, you'll see it. Where it's just like,
Yeah, I can definitely see it.
if you take an educated guess, more than likely you'll be right, because he really does have a very distinctive character methodology.
Yeah, definitely out of all these, The Land Before Time was the one that I had most on repeat. Even then, I didn't watch it like a ton, but as a young kid, I watched it quite a bit.
No, I certainly watched that one quite a bit. I actually don't own it, but that's one I wouldn't mind going back to and rewatching. I think it would be really similar to my experience with Ernest Goes to Jail, actually, where I honestly can't remember it bit for bit right now, but as soon as I'm in it and I start like seeing certain images and hearing certain lines of dialogue, the whole movie will just like come back instantly.
Yeah, and you can't beat that runtime for Land Before Time. 1 hour, 9 minutes.
Ooh, that is tasty.
Yeah.
83 minutes for Secret of NIHM. So
I mean, that's still good. That's still good, but it ain't
you're
1:09.
You're pushing it,
1
Bluth.
hour 9.
1 hour 9, damn. And wow, they managed to cram in all sorts of depressing shit in there.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
I think of all the animated mother deaths in that phase of my cinema like familiarity, that one may have been up there in terms of how hard it hit. Mm-hmm. It's like, God damn it, Littlefoot. It's like, God damn it, Littlefoot.
Yeah, that got a lot of people.
Yeah. I can't remember who sung the ending song for that. It's like, it wasn't Tina Turner. It was someone, I think, a little bit before her. Can't remember, but it was a banger, as they say.
Yeah. I don't remember the song at all.
I remember the melody mostly because
Diana Ross.
Diana Ross, yes. No, the melody plays throughout the whole film, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was also Jerry Goldsmith. But yeah, Secret of NIHM, unlike Ernest Goes to Jail, actually does get like a sincere recommend from me. I think it's a really incredible film that has a lot to offer, and even just from an audiovisual perspective, it's a very solid work of visual art, and Jerry Goldsmith showed the fuck up because there's some really memorable tunes in this one.
Yeah. Man, I gotta say, like, I feel like my picks are like over here just like basic, like Inception, Shaun of the Dead. I'm being like bro over here.
Hey, we got some good stories out of them, though. I mean, not everybody can say they've seen Inception 4 times in the theater and in Fortnite.
Yeah, that's true. That is an achievement.
Yeah. No, and remember, Brad, like literally all of my picks except for maybe The Beast, which came out in 1996. So I was 9. Like, all of these movies are from that period of my life and earlier. Yeah. So these are all like pre-10-year-old Trevor. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of my picks are definitely a little bit oddball, just because that came from a time period in which I technically wasn't picking what I wanted to watch. It was up to my parents, basically. Yeah. So these were just the things that were available to me, and it didn't matter if they were good or not. They were just the toys I had to play with. But
Yep.
But no, I think this was a successful exercise, Brad. Did you want to do a speed round to wrap things up, or are you about tapped out?
Yeah, I can do a speed round real quick. I got a few things sitting here. You want me to kick it off?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just grabbed The Shining, which I don't own on 4K, unfortunately. That's embarrassing. Just got the Blu-ray, but of course I've seen that tons of times. This one, another kind of holiday film, Gremlins. I don't necessarily think of it as a Christmas movie, but it's a good one to put on that time of year if you're sick of all the basic shit. Then I got The Evil Dead, excuse me. Oof, that was almost embarrassing again. The Evil Dead, which I actually prefer Evil Dead 2, but I don't know, there's something where it's like, with Evil Dead 2, I kind of have to be in like the right mood for it. Whereas The Evil Dead is just like a great horror film that I can just put on, and I think I've seen it more times. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I mean, come on. I'm sure you've watched this a million times in middle school, high school era. I mean, come on.
I've seen it exactly one time.
Really?
Yeah, my dad liked some Monty Python stuff, Holy Grail, and for whatever reason, he was really big on The Life of Brian.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, Monty Python actually didn't get a whole lot of play in my household. But I've seen The Holy Grail though. I have seen it at least once.
I just feel like everybody, like every guy in middle school was just like obsessed with this movie. I don't know what it was, but like everybody I knew was just like, so it's like I don't even feel like I have any like claim to it, even though I watched it so much like in middle school. Like,
no,
so much.
I think most guys, only difference is I was too busy watching Rocky 3 and 4 over and over and over again in middle school.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. No, I mean, yeah, there's much worse things you could be watching. Nothing wrong with that at all. This one, I don't know how many times I've actually rewatched this, but I've definitely seen it quite a few. House on Haunted Hill, the remake.
Nice.
I mean, probably out of all these, it's probably the one I have watched the least. But I did watch this a lot when it would be on TV and stuff in the early 2000s. And then finally, Boogie Nights, which definitely the most watchable Paul Thomas Anderson film, I think. I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite. It's definitely up there. But it's the kind of film that you can it's so much fun to just hang out with these characters. And it's so just like this thing just moves. It's awesome. It's one of the most watchable films out there.
It really is. If I owned that movie, you better believe it, I would have set it aside to talk about on this episode because it's not a short movie either, but I have seen it so many times.
Yeah.
So many times.
There's something about it. You just every like year or so, you just get feeling like, man, I could really watch Boogie Nights again. That movie's got everything.
No, I mean, not even that long ago. Like a couple months ago, I put it on the background while I was working at home.
Yeah.
Like, so hang on, you put on Boogie Nights while you're working? It's like, yeah, don't you?
I mean, which really, like, you know, not that I'm like a prude or anything, but you would think like you tell people about this movie and it's like, oh, it's about the porn industry in the 70s. And people are kind of like, that's the movie you watch again and again and again. And it's like, well, once you see it, like, you'll understand. I mean, I guess I can understand just like based on that, you'd be like, what the heck? But definitely, it's just totally watchable and fun. And yeah, I love it.
No, me too. I actually teased my girlfriend with that a while back. Where it's like, I don't know what it says about me, but for some reason I find this movie hypnotic. Yeah. And I keep coming back to it. Okay, well, that it for your speed round then, Brad?
Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, well, I'll try to make this quick then. So, speed round. I have John Woo's Face Off on DVD.
Ooh, yes.
This was one of the earlier R-rated movies I ever saw, and therefore one that was very, very, very important to me. I watched it countless times. Pretty sure this was one of those movies that right there with Speed would be filed away as one of those movies that my brother just got furious with me for how many times I put it on. He's just like, are you fucking Face Off again? Are you fucking serious? Curiously, Speed is a movie I still don't own because that 4K has been very difficult to track down. I am very excited to come back to that though, because it's been a solid minute since I watched it. But that is a movie I have seen countless times. So that should have been on this episode. Sadly, it wasn't, but next time, baby. In the words of the unemployed Terrence Howard. I have Blood Sport, featuring Jean-Claude Van Damme, who had the Last Mercenary drop on Netflix pretty recently, as far as I recall. Blood Sport is one of those movies that was on cable constantly. Again, one of the earlier R-rated movies I ever saw. It achieved mythic status in my household because right alongside Rocky IV and Top Gun, it was one of those movies that I knew by reputation and by like one pivotal plot point, like years before I'd ever see it. So Top Gun was the movie where somebody important in it dies. And then Rocky IV was the other one where somebody important in it dies. And then Bloodsport was the one where the dude gets his head stepped on and it's really gory. Although it actually wasn't that gory. But I was like 5 at the time, so I had this image in my head of what the movie Bloodsport was. And then I saw it, and it's amazing, but it's not that movie. Like, the movie I imagined was not that movie. But I've seen Bloodsport so many fucking times, and it never gets old. my girlfriend has been exposed to Bloodsport, and she quite liked it. So she there's a reason she's still around. I have SPL on Blu-ray and DVD. This was I mentioned Wilson Yip, the fellow who directed Biozombie. This was the first pairing between him and Donnie Yen. In the mid-2000s. We did a review of it for Catching Up on Cinema, similar to how we did a review for Flashpoint, which I also have on DVD. This one has postcards because Hong Kong DVD publishers are kind like that.
You gotta hang on to that then.
Yeah, and it's got this weird like canvas material. Very interesting, all over Louis Koo's face. Yeah, both of these movies directed by Wilson Yip. Flashpoint actually serves as a prequel to SPL. They both kind of served as the like modern renaissance for Hong Kong like martial arts action cinema. They kind of breathed new life into the genre, like amidst the fervor that Tony Jaa was stirring up over in Thailand with the no wires, no stunt people like Ong Bak situation. So in response to that, Donnie Yen and like all the Hong Kong stunt people, they kind of got together. They're like, how can we match that? It's like, well, we can't do that because Donnie Yen has a lot of plastic surgery and we can't have him eating knees to the face. Like that's expensive. We can't do that.
Yeah.
So instead they went back to the drawing board with the choreography, and in a modern day setting found a way to like integrate plausible mixed martial arts in like a modern day cops and robbers setting. And it's my favorite combination of things where it's a cop movie, but it's also a kung fu movie, and neither element feels hokey. And both of these movies as a pair are just like a fantastic 1-2 punch. Can't recommend them enough. I've seen them countless times. I have Transformers the movie, Steelbook, Scream or Shout Factory. I have Tremors, which is a movie I'm shocked neither of us brought up today, but both of us have seen it many times, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I have.
I'm embarrassed that I don't have the Arrow 4K. That's why I didn't mention it.
Oh well, I just have the what is it? Just a universal disc. I haven't bothered to upgrade it, but it is a movie I would consider upgrading because it's fucking Tremors. But I have the Predator triple feature box here. This is a very terrible looking box set. I really don't like that they used the Predator mask from Predators on the cover, but it was economical. And really, I'm only talking about the first Predator here because I've seen it God knows how many fucking times. I have the Jaws 4K because look at the poster behind Brad. RoboCop Arrow release, another movie I've seen a bajillion fucking times. And then I have some questionable anime releases that I just figured I'd bring up just for shits and giggles. So I have a pair of Dragon Ball Z movies. I have movie number 9 and movie number 12. Both of these movies I owned on bootleg VHS back in the day. I ordered them through eBay. I got my dad to get a money order for me so I could pay some anonymous stranger at the other end of the country to send me bootleg VHS tapes of questionable quality. And this was in like the early 2000s or something. And the image quality was total shit. The subtitle quality was even worse. But I loved both of these movies, and now that I've upgraded them to DVD, I can actually understand what's going on and actually see what's going on, because those VHS tapes were fucking atrocious. They were just covered in snow the entire time. And then I
would just love to know your dad's reaction when you asked him for that. Like, you want to do what now?
Well, yeah, I started doing that at some point because I was getting a feel for the things that I valued, and a lot of them happened to be things that were well out of reach. So from a pretty early age, I was doing stuff like that, like buying bootleg Godzilla movies at the card store across the street from Costco and shit like that, and buying import Super Nintendo games that I had to like. Do you know how to region modify a Super Nintendo, Brad?
I think you've told me how to do it before, I think.
So there's a pair of plastic tabs. Like if you open the dust cover, there's just these two little knobs, and what you do is you take a pair of needle nose pliers and you rip those tabs out. Congratulations, you have hard modded your Super Nintendo to play international titles. I did that, and eBay was kind of my playground in the early 2000s, and I ended up having to like give my birthday money back to my dad and be like, can we go to the bank to process this into a money order so I can mail it to someone in Georgia or some shit? Yep. So they can send me Dragon Ball games from 5 years ago. Yep, fun times. I'm very lucky to have a dad that would let me do that, though, because I'm pretty sure not everybody's dad would do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, to close things out here, I have Fatal Fury, the motion picture, which is a anime title we did for Anime August, I think last year. It's based on the video game series, and it got played on the Sci-Fi Channel very late at night, very frequently for a spell. And I remember catching it because I used to be like up late drawing and stuff, and I just remember looking up and be like, "That's Terry Bogard." It's like, he's from my video games. What's he doing on TV? And then I hit up the internet and was like, oh shit, that's Fatal Fury in animation form. I was not aware of that. Fun fact, the soundtrack for this movie served as the first MP3s I ever downloaded in my entire life. I found a fan website. This was like prior to YouTube, prior to all that kind of shit. It was like a GeoCities. Yeah, it was like a GeoCities fan page or something that had the soundtrack like in individual MP3 files. And I remember asking my parents for permission to download this music because no one in the household knew anything of had any clue what an MP3 was, nor did they knew what it meant to download said MP3. And so I asked for permission and I got an okay. And yeah, that was the first time I ever downloaded anything off the internet. It came in the form of the soundtrack.
That's got to have a special place in your heart then.
It's a really good soundtrack. Actually, you should look it up. It's fantastic. And the last thing here is it says Fighting Spirit Champion Road. The series title is Hajime no Ippo. It's like the beginning of the first step. It's a boxing anime that to this day I still collect the manga in a collected form. They're up to like 120 something books now. It started in 1989 and persists to this day. This was the movie that kind of concluded the first television series of many to come. But the opening like 5 minutes of this, Brad, very similar to G.I. Joe, the motion picture. Opening 5 fucking minutes of this are cinematic bliss. Just fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's just like, if you've ever wanted to see some of the best renderings like in animated form of people being punched in the fucking face, bam, right there. And that's about it. That's
hey, that sounds good. That sounds good.
Oh yeah, no, you should, if nothing else, just look up the first few minutes of it because it's phenomenal. But yeah, that's about it for my speed round. So Brad, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about our Rewatchable Relics. It's been a fun time of sharing stories and whatnot. But before we go, do you want to let the folks at home know where they can find you and your podcast?
Yeah, of course. It's the Cinema Speak podcast. We're on Instagram at the Cinema Speak. You always tell me I do such a good job, and I just fucked it up. Damn it! Fuck. On Twitter at the Cinema Speak, and Instagram is Cinema Speak podcast. I'm sweating. On YouTube as Cinema Speak, or you can go online cinemaspeak.libsyn.com. That's all right. I'm out. I'm done. I'm out.
That's okay, Brad. You did good. And folks at home, if you didn't catch it there, Brad does have a YouTube channel for the Cinema Speak podcast. It's really fantastic. He does mostly unboxings, but he's also done like a top 10 list. And your most recent video was, man, you had me worried about you for a second there, Brad. Like you had the clickbait title, so I had an idea of what was coming. Like, very good on you, like on that point, by the way. I need to get better about that kind of shit. But yeah. But when that hammer dropped, I was like, oh man, I think he's like legit like kind of pissed. Like I don't know what the dinner after that video was like, but I'm sure it was full of awkward silences.
It killed the mood. It really killed the mood. We'll see what happens when they send in the second replacement copy that's currently on its way. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, so folks at home, definitely check that out. Brad is doing some really awesome stuff with his YouTube channel.
Thank you.
But in the meantime, though, if you would like to check out our other Catching Up on Cinema content, you can find all of that located at our website at CatchingUpOnCinema.com. We also have a couple social medias in the form of an Instagram at CatchingUpOnCinema, as well as a Twitter at CatchingCinema. So feel free to hit me up at either of those. And the podcast is available at pretty much any platform you can imagine, including Cephalopod. So fucking Google it. And that being said, thank you so much for joining me, Brad, and thank you so much, folks at home, for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.